Or are they going to get really wet?
They'll stand out of the line
or
of
are they
fire.
hear hissing and sucking? That's the sucking I like to hear. I take the discussions and stick them on backwards and open them up just a little bit so they go on easy. I also don't cut these pipes so close that the angle stop hits the back of the discussion, because later you don't have no room to repair anything. If somebody gets in here, changes it, and screws something up and wrecks it, then you don't have no pipe. You have to cut the cabinet out to get more pipe to play with. You put a little bit of pipe dope on these threads, it's like a friction releasant. How's that? Anyway, you can tighten these things up without as much force and get them tight.
Now, no matter what type of pipes you installed for your plumbing, behind the finished surfaces, once it comes out from the drywall, the first thing it needs to hit is a valve, so it can be shut off and turned on and controlled. Now, for sinks and toilets, this means an angle stop. There are several types and variations of these, but the basic design hasn't changed that much over the years. Ball valves are best, but probably anything you get is going to work, because the angle stop creates a shutoff and a 3/8 threaded nipple so that supply lines can be hooked up for the sinks and the toilets. The nipple is usually perpendicular to the direction of the incoming water so that the supply lines can head up or straight over to the sink or toilet where it's needed.
Kind of nice not having the doors on those cabinets, huh?
Oh yeah. When I was little, I could stand up under these and work on them. American Standard might frown on me not reading the instructions.
No, you're a professional. That's for the.
I need to discuss the definition of professional again to people. That means you charge money for what you do, period. That's what a professional is.
There's probably an English version in there.
Attach cable. That's the word I know, attach. Well, I get like my brother. Can't stay on one subject. Here's a pitiful sight. The plumber moving. At least I get the floor clean. You have a supply pipe coming up to your toilet and it's too long, it does one of these things. And if you're mopping around in here, the mop hooks onto it, catches on it, and plus it's unsightly. I run my hose, especially if they're a little bit too long for these tall ADA toilets, coming up like that. And it hides the supply line behind the toilet, you don't have to stare at it. It's important. Shut the angle stops off. Okay. These are some really nice dual angle stops. Some dual angle stops are just horrifying. I don't know why they even make them. Quarter turn, on and off. Problem is, they're hard to get a wrench on. So, you guys remember if hot's on the top or cold's on the bottom or what? You remember if I was going around saying hot on top? I was trying to keep these out of the way, so I might stagger them. That's the proper way to get hot. No, hot's on the left, so it'll be fine. The dishwasher's going to do that.
Yeah, those are some really fancy valves.
They're gold plated.
Not solid gold, huh?
Got to keep them in the same line, or my brother will make me change it. All right. The only problem with these is it's hard to get a wrench on them. And I'm sure they make a special tool for it that I don't have. It's probably electric. So, come on, honey. You do this. And you do this. And then you do this. this. Okay. Get everybody straightened out.
Sure you don't need one more wrench, huh?
I might. Okay, that should hardly leak.
What's the other cold one for? How's that work?
Okay, oh yeah, let's see, that pipe there is for the pot filler. It's just a loop from that wall to here. And so we're gonna have a supply line going from here to this angle stop only. We'll actually have 2 shutoff valves for that pot filler. But when a pot filler drips and leaks and needs to be repaired, there's no drain for it. It fills up the pot and then it overflows on the stove. And then you stare in bewilderment and wondering what to do about it. So this way you can shut it off under the sink, because this is the source of the water to it. And the way that it hooks up with just a supply line ends up, the easy way to do it is with a pair of angle stops. We're gonna set this toilet with a rubber seal rather than a wax seal. Never put stuff down the drain, like chips or waste, other than your own. So, one of the problems I have with tile guys is they've never set a toilet. And this groove here, like that one, you got to get the bolt into it like that. And see all the goop they put in there? And sometimes I have to chip this much tile out right here to get the bolt to start. That makes me liable for the floor when I chip it and it blows the whole thing out. Dangerous for me. I like using these rubber guys, but they don't work every time for every situation. What's most important is this flange isn't above the floor level. Sometimes you'll see them just set right to the top of the floor, but this flange is over a 1/4 inch thick. So these don't work in the situation if the flange is real high, that there's not enough compression. You can't crush it down to nothing like a piece of wax would. But at any rate, before you ever set a toilet, if the flange is too high, you might have trouble, because modern toilets have a real shallow cup in the base of them. And it's a lot easier to have a low flange than a high flange. You can stack up little rings on top of these to get it high if it was really deep, 1 inch deep. You can't do much about it if it's too high. So what we're going to do is just set the toilet on this thing and make sure that the toilet touches the ground everywhere. If the ground isn't flat, that's another issue to be addressed. Not today. Our tile guys are so good, this thing is like flat to within nothing.
Alright, I can see mine.
Now you got to put your little tiny Japanese hands in here and tighten that up like it was a Nissan. Actually, when you bolt the toilet down, you got a washer and sometimes a plastic thing that holds a little cap.
Yeah.
Well, you put the nut on like normal person, an acorn nut up like that. That's wrong. It's not wrong to most people. It's just wrong to me.
What's that?
I'll run 2 washers so there's got some integrity. I put the thing upside down and the acorn fits inside the hole of the washer and it self-centers it. If you don't do this and the washer skews out here and here and here, it messes with you. So this makes it self-centering is all. Oh. Also, I don't saw these bolts off when they're too long. We don't have to worry about this toilet. But if they're sticking up, you can't snap that cap over it. You know, the little dome. So you have to cut that off. The brass bolt, it will break off to this, either way, crispy. You hit it with a pair of dikes a little bit and you bend it back and forth and it'll break off and it won't mess up the lead thread. You can see it might be a little tough, but it'll still come on and off. Sawing it, you get a jab saw in there and it hits the toilet, marks it up, and if you grind it, it sprays all kinds of stuff on the side of the toilet. Anyway, There's the connection to this. You might get your bionic hand on it. I got a bad wrist because my watch is too tight. Spent a lot of time talking about not putting the center of the drain on the center of the sink and have it like 3.5, 4 inches off center, because that's the center of the trap's widest offset. Never want a trap, I don't, looking straight into the wall like that. Because what happens half the time is this fitting in the wall hits right there on the radius of this. Mostly a pedestal sink. The cabinets came in a little bit different, so we're off than originally we roughed it in. It's not a big deal. We're just going to put a 22-degree fitting on here and point it into the trap like that. So that's sort of explaining why nothing I talk about is true. Getting in under these cabinets takes the only tool I ever use, the hatchet. It'll bend around, get into places, balanced. I like it. I got 7 of them. So we got paint, a little drywall junk on here. We're gonna sand that off some sandpaper before we glue it. But in the meantime, I'm just mocking this up. I'll do 1.5 or 1.25 inches, but I don't know how.
Nice.
It had a frequency. But the cabinet butchery, see that hole? My flange discussion doesn't cover it. And you know what fixes that? Crest toothpaste. That's what we used to fix the walls up in the school days. I love these style P-traps because they have the rubber washers on them. Oops, put it together the right way. A lot of them are a plastic, harder washer. These sure are nice. Cheap P-traps have a molding seam on them from they mold them. You have to scrape those off sometimes. And these rubber washers would absorb any bumps, no problem. Okay, see if the faucet works. Oh, air squirting out. Put those studs in, or did you do that?
I already got the studs on.
You're the stud yourself.
Blobs over here on this side, Trevor. Huh?
Okay, I'm on a ladder with my arm stuck through a drop ceiling.
Okay.
I'm on like the 4th rung of the ladder.
Okay.
And I got a torch with a 2-gallon tank up in the attic. And
The tank is in the attic?
and a 6-foot of hose hooked to the torch.
Okay.
So I've got a copper elbow up there and I've sawed it in half, sawed it right through the bend of it, so all the water will drain out.
Okay.
Then I'm cooking one side of that fitting and taking a pair of pliers and flipping it off, but it falls on the floor instead of the bucket of water.
Oh.
It's brand new Pergo 4. I just kicked the flooring guys out because they're in my way. We're shutting the water off at 5. Get out of here. They're mad. So they leave, stomped out the door. So this hot copper hits the floor and I see it starting to sizzle here. So I skip on down the ladder to kick it off onto the cement, which is right next to where they wanted to finish. And then I woke up and the propane bottle hit me in the back of the head and knocked me out. And I laid on, I just fell 2 steps off the ladder and laid on the ground and then held the burning torch to my right nipple. And then a fella stopped by and put it out after a while. And then I went in a helicopter to Cottage Grove because it blew up. It didn't even make it to Portland.
The helicopter?
The helicopter broke down, so we landed in Cottage Grove and the generator went out in it. I told him there's 2 generators on it. So we get in an ambulance and go to Eugene. We get to Eugene and we get in a Learjet.
What?
Yeah, it's like money's no object with Phil. And so we get up to Portland.
Do you know who this guy is? He's a plumber.
Yeah, they knew.
Yeah.
Now the whole time I'm mad because I couldn't sit up to see where we were going. They wouldn't let me fly the Learjet. It's midnight by the time we get there. We leave at 6 in the afternoon. I could have rode my bike there faster. There you have it.
So you were, at that point, you were conscious, I mean, on all this traveling and just kind of like on a stretcher sort of with...
They put morphine on me.
Oh, okay, so you were half conscious.
I was fine.
Grandpa was crying.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grandpa didn't enjoy it.
I didn't realize that the tank, I've seen that tank, it's like a barbecue tank.
Yeah, it's a great big 2-gallon tank.
Hit you in the head.
But when I got to the hospital, I didn't have a sore spot or anything. And so they did all these tests on me, see if I stroked out or something good, you know.
Yeah.
And no, and then the next day I found a soft spot and figured it out. And then I started to remember better, you know.
What do you think happened? Do you think you just like skipped a step on the ladder on your way down or just...
Possibly, and just kind of jerked the hose. And,
Yeah.
But the bottom line is safety fourth.
It went from fifth to
Because we
fourth.
could have probably tied that tank up with a cable or something and put a safety harness on me going up 2 steps up the ladder. You know, there's right ways to do things.
It just doesn't sound like Phil though.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have this story.
Yeah. Probably need to get a bigger tank next time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
If it didn't knock you out, I
I
mean,
get a bigger torch tip too.
bigger torch tip.
Because I could have burned that whole building down and would be done and I'd be retired.
Job would be over. And your life.
I know, I'd be retired.
Wow. Well, it sounds funny when you tell a story now, but it was not funny that afternoon when news broke.
Nothing hurt ever. I mean, pain, but it wasn't nothing horribly hurting.
Well, what about like the next couple days in the hospital?
No, what really hurt in the hospital was watching those nurses see my hairdo. Just grease. That was sad.
I bet they had a good time with you there.
Way too much.
It's really fun.
All of the fixtures that these supply lines hook up to were provided for us by American Standard. They're beautiful, and at the end of the video, you're going to get an up-close look at each one of them. If at all possible, when you take on a project like this, have these products on site before your plumber or the tile guys or the countertop installers are there to do their jobs. That way, they know exactly what is coming, and you don't have to worry too much about expensive surprises.
We're up on the Hollywood Hills, and I've got Dan, my nephew here, doing all my work while I point my finger and irritate him.
No.
I tell him how to do stuff he knows how to do constantly.
I don't.
He hates
I
it.
don't.
Dan is putting the shower trim together, and it's worth noting that in the case of showers, half of the fixture is in the wall behind the tile. The valve body, where all of the actual mechanical control of the water itself happens, is now inaccessible without cutting open the wall. These plumbing fixtures are all from a matching design series that American Standard developed. Now, it's probably obvious, but using a single manufacturer for all of the items that you're going to be using really takes a lot of the guesswork out of the whole design process and guarantees that the color, the shapes, and the overall feel of all of the plumbing fixtures that you need, including the towel bars, are going to match and work together just right. I really want to thank American Standard for providing us with all these fixtures. As you can see, they are perfect for this house. This is a great company. They've been around a long time, and we'll link to their website in the description if you'd like to learn more. We have one more plumbing video yet to come out in our series. It'll be about the installation of our on-demand hot water heater, and I hope you check it out. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman, and keep up the good work.